Good. All right. So good afternoon. I want to thank all of you, especially, particularly and first of all, board members for taking time out today to come here and get started with what has to be, without question, the most important decision and body of work that we have ahead of us this year. We have invited a few firms to join us. I will tell you that we extended an invitation to about six, and we have 3 of them with us here today. We are going to give each of the firms 20 minutes to give a presentation on their capabilities and what they believe they can contribute to this district for a successful director's search. Following this, we've asked each firm to set aside 45 minutes for each of you as each board member to have discussions, to ask further questions with regards to their capabilities, things and personal concerns that you may have with regards to the search, what you're particularly interested in their ability and looking for them to provide to support us in that endeavor. This will begin today and conclude tomorrow, I believe, by noon. Following those one-on-one sessions, we'll schedule an official, I guess our first official meeting of the search committee, which as you know is a committee of the whole, to discuss the results of your discussions, and we will then go ahead and vote and make an offer and extend an invitation to one of the firms to join us in our search. Okay? All right. So our first presentation will be from ProAct Search.
Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you for inviting us into your living room to give us an opportunity to talk to you about our firm and the services that we are proposing for you. First of all, this is the most important task that you have ahead of you, and do appreciate your comprehensive due diligence approach to this. About a year ago, unbeknownst to me, my wife announced my retirement. And I've been a superintendent for 20 years, and the last 10 years in 2 of the 25 largest districts in America, Cobb County, Georgia, and Dallas, Texas. So having a background in human resources, when ProAct invited me to participate in this, I was very grateful to accept this opportunity. I am the Chief Search Officer, and you will be seeing a lot of me, but that's me, and I'll be back in just a moment. But I'd like to introduce my colleague, James Guerra.
Good afternoon, everyone. And to echo Michael's sentiments, thank you for having us today. It's a great honor and a privilege to be here with you this afternoon. I'm going to be quick in my delivery because I do want you to spend a majority of the time today hearing from Dr. Hinojosa and his experiences as he's been with ProAct for several months now. If you could turn your attention quickly to our imprint. It's on the map on page 3, I believe. I want to quickly call attention to some of the work that we're doing across the nation, and specifically in one of your neighboring counties of Shelby County. So I'd like to point out that we're doing quite a bit of work within the non-traditional space of bringing very qualified and experienced professionals into the education realm as sitting superintendents. So we have a great depth of experience working in that capacity as well. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, but again, I want to be conscientious of your time, so I do welcome any questions. All right, to talk a little bit about the historical relevance and context of our work, I'd like to call attention to the longevity. So as many of you are aware, sitting superintendents, the normal life expectancy nationwide is typically about 2.5 years. So we far exceed that with our replacements. So I'd like to just quickly illustrate that because we find that to be very critical in the search process. And as you'll find learning from Michael, that our work is very extensive. So we work tirelessly to help produce the best quality candidates that we can for you. To briefly highlight the experiences of our team, again, as Michael said, my name is James Guerra. I am the Senior Vice President for ProAct Search. My role is specifically to help and engage various communities, constituents, stakeholders nationwide. I have a vast experience working in some of the largest urban metroplexes across the country. I currently reside in Austin, Texas, but I've lived in Dallas, Texas, Las Vegas, where Clark County is, and most recently Washington, D.C. So we've worked in the context of very large urban settings, both Michael and I, as well as the team. So you'll actually be engaging and interfacing with quite a few people throughout this process, some of which will be behind the scenes, and that will provide a greater context to the due diligence, as Michael said, to some of the work and some of the back-end details. But in terms of interfacing, Michael and I will be two of your lead points of contact. So I'm going to turn it back over to him because I'd like him to take it from here. Thank you.
First of all, our CEO, Gary Solomon, he is in the office of superintendents nationwide, probably 3 days a week. He has that kind of connection and network with superintendents all over the country. As James described his role, I will be boots on the ground. You will see me the most, so you'll recognize the mustache and you'll know I'm coming. So it leads me everywhere. Dale Robbins is our master facilitator. In our protocols, we have an engagement process that's very, very thorough. And he's recently retired from Gwinnett County, and he's a master of putting these community forums and individual focus groups all together and helping us develop the profile. Chrissy Osborne, she's the brains of the outfit. She's young. She's graduated from Northwestern. She works in our Chicago office, and the best thing about her is that her boyfriend lives in Spain. So she has all kinds of time to help navigate the work, and she is brilliant, and so she never sleeps. So you will get emails from her, the board chair, whoever the designated point person becomes. And then we have other people help us with particular other items. We do our search in 5 phases. And so if you select us, almost immediately, as soon as, and I understand, there may be there's some talk about the delay with the mayoral election, whether you want to launch now or whether you want to launch then, you let us know and we'll be here. The most important meeting is the kickoff meeting, and that lasts 2 hours, and where I come in and we will go over all of our protocols, our requirements, our expectations, our contact person, and that is the most important thing that we do in our kickoff, because then we just implement the plan. But developing that plan with all 9 of you there is going to be critically important. And then that's like the architect designing the building, and then all we have to do is go implement it after that. I may also do, since I live in Dallas, Texas, I may come in and do the one-on-one interviews with each board member, which is part of our protocol, which bleeds into the second phase. The second phase is the community engagement. We like to take 2 weeks, depends on the timeline that we set up at the kickoff meeting, but we engage various community stakeholders. We ask you who we need to talk to. You know your community better than anybody. And then Dale is the one that puts all those together. We'll have focus groups in the morning, and then open sessions in the evening for the parents and anyone else to come to. Those 2 phases are negotiable, but we actually need 5 weeks, at least 5 weeks to do recruitment. But we can't go recruit until we know what you're looking for. So you tell us that in the profile development stage that Dale leads through the community engagement portion. Now, after we know what we're looking for, then we go all over the country, whether it's traditional, non-traditional, urban, suburban, whatever you're looking for, and then we'll know that. And then we'll present the presentation phase. We'll come back, and it takes a few days. We'll get you all these materials that you will have access to. Most boards now do it. We get it to you ahead of time, even a week before your meeting, so you have access to every document we have. We actually make people interview for Nashville Metro. Every time, if they apply for our job, the top candidates, we do a preliminary interview with them, and you'll see the results of that interview. And we'll also have reference checks, so you'll have a whole notebook, very thick, whenever we present you the candidates. We like to present you 8 to 12 candidates that we feel meet the profile. You can look at anybody that applied, but after we've done our due diligence, we come up with the 8 to 12 top candidates. And then we work with you on the interview phase, depending on whether it's going to be 2 rounds or whatever. But this is a very important part. This is how we do our protocols. It is somewhat negotiable depending on what your needs are. But the only thing that's not negotiable is giving us 5 weeks to get you great candidates in front of you. We've had success in the non-traditional setting. We helped Shelby County when they went through that big merger with Memphis City. We worked in that. El Paso, Texas recently had an attorney that was hired to come lead their district after they had major issues with their district with some cheating scandals. And so we helped them get Juan Cabrera, who is an attorney, to come in and help and he's doing a fantastic job there in El Paso, Texas. So we have access to other types of traditional and non-traditional candidates. Another thing that we undersell is that we have a sister organization called the Soups Academy. And right now we are the training arm for the American Association of School Administrators. We have over 120 superintendents nationwide that participate with AASA, and we are the trainer. We are the Soups Academy. Some of that curriculum we got from the Broad Foundation because we acquired that. So, and we've tweaked it to make it more relevant for our candidates that are in that organization. I was the chair-elect of the Council of Great City Schools. Whenever I got selected to be the Cobb County Superintendent, so I had to give that up. We helped start a suburban superintendent's organization that included Fairfax, Gwinnett, Montgomery County, and ourselves in Cobb because we felt it was important. So I also have access to the Latino administrators. I was on the board of ALAS. So there are many different organizations that we interface with in the traditional and non-traditional space. James may want to add a couple of words to that.
Yes, thank you, Michael. I think he was being a bit modest. Dr. Hinojosa has done quite a bit during his tenure, and his track record speaks for itself. But I would like to add, in the non-traditional space, some of the team members, including myself, work very closely with various state boards of education and other CMO organization and representation across the country, specifically within the Gates Foundation community, the Arnold Foundation community, some of the other constituents at various state levels, because it can be regionally defined. So the CMO world is also something that we're very familiar with. So I would like to underscore that. But I would like Michael to spend a little bit more time with you, so I'm going to give it back to him.
Sometimes we apologize because we get in our own acronyms. Charter Management Organizations is what CMO stands for. But that does show you the depth of our reach. And I get my energy off of superintendents. I am currently coaching 11 superintendents nationwide. We just finished the Ferguson, Missouri search. You've probably heard about some issues in Ferguson, Missouri. We had 150 applicants for Ferguson, including 45 sitting superintendents, because Chrissy is amazing. She has every superintendent's email, so she was able to do a lot of outreach, and we were able to get some great candidates, and we just successfully concluded a very important, high-profile, volatile search in Ferguson, Missouri, to the satisfaction of that board, and you feel free to contact any of those board members. So, but we knew what we were looking for there in that search based upon what the profile that occurred. So that's what our outreach is. This is a makeup of we have a lot of diversity in our pool. We have ethnic diversity. Unfortunately, we have less female representation than we should, but these are the people that are currently in our pool. We have people from all over the country, as is evidenced by that. So why PROACT? I think that we do have connections, and we'll make specific outreach to Tennessee. We have worked in the state. I know of some of the superintendents that are in the state, but also we have a national perspective. We can bring you candidates who would meet that profile from all over. We do have a lot of some experience, probably more than others, in the non-traditional space. Should that be where you end up? We won't know that until after the kickoff meeting. We are a systems-driven place. We have a full-time staff back in Chicago. They keep us organized. We never miss a deadline, and we're at your disposal. We've had experience working in states that have very stringent open meeting, open record, sunshine issues. In Florida and Louisiana, and we've done some work in Tennessee, so we know how that works, and we're able to still get a strong pool of candidates for you to consider. We have the guarantee that we have a 2-year guarantee that if your superintendent leaves for whatever reason within the 2 years, which we don't like to offer back up because hopefully they'll be here for a long time, that we would just do it for costs. And then we also, even though we have a strong pool, and this happened to us in Ferguson, we will never recruit your candidate away, your superintendent away. We help place a superintendent in real near St. Louis, and they were very impressed with that lady, and they wanted her to wanted us to recruit her to that job, and we could not do it because if we helped place her there, we're not going to take her to another community, and she was there for 2 years, and so we make that vow. I've looked at your challenges. I know that you have some successes. I know that you have a strategic plan to 2015. You're having a change in leadership. And I've noticed that you have a very ambitious goal to be the best urban district by 2018. And that's laudable. But you need a captain. You need someone who's going to help steer that. And we're here to help you find that. I know that, you're doing some innovative things with some charters to try to address some of your lowest performing schools. And we congratulate you for that. So you're going to need a superintendent that can deal with that kind of those moving parts and that ambiguity, and we think that we can go get you the best candidates to pick from in that regard. So, James, anything else? I think we have a couple of minutes.
Yeah, just quickly, and then I'll turn it back over to you. I again want to thank you for your time today, but I do want to leave you with just I guess some food for thought, if you will. We have a great network of access to information. So I often tell folks when they ask us what we do, we're essentially a clearinghouse of information. I consider our team to be the best and the brightest and the hardest working in this space. Just to give you some context, I flew in early this morning from the Council of Great City Schools Conference in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, visiting with a number of stakeholders and your colleagues and peers from around the country. And Michael, the same, working this week in the Bay Area. So I can tell you with 100% certainty that we have a great network of folks and constituents that we work with, and we'll find you the best possible candidate that we can. So thank you again.
In closing, we know that you have some successes, a lot of things that you're proud of. We also know that you have a burgeoning immigrant Latino community that's also in this community. We also know that Nashville is a tremendous city with the music and the arts, and also having a great university like Vanderbilt. All of those things are opportunities for us to get you the kind of people that you want to come serve this community, hopefully for a long time. But we will be honest with the candidates, and we will tell them the good, the bad, and the ugly, because they need to know that as they come in and prepare to meet with you. And so we will share all that information with them. And so in doing some research and driving through your community this morning, it is really exciting where you have all those diverse worlds coming together, and then you're responsible for educating the young people in this community. So we thank you very much for giving us that opportunity. We're going to give you maybe a little bit of time back, and we'll be glad to entertain any questions now, but I know I'm very impressed at the thoroughness, and we'll have an opportunity to chat with each one of you. But at this time, there's no need for me to keep talking. We'll just wait until we have those opportunities, unless you have Madam Chair, if there's a question that we need
Is
to
there
answer.
anything that needs to be clarified from the current presentation that you've seen? Anything? Mr. Hinojosa, Mr. Guerra, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Next, we will have, Ray and Associates.
Want to see if we're live here. We're ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Gary Ray, and I'm president of Ray and Associates. And we appreciate you having us here and giving us an opportunity to talk about our firm and how we can help you. With me is one of my top associates who's been working with me for a number of years, Dr. Mary Fassbender, and I'll let her introduce herself rather quickly, and then we'll get on to our presentation.
Thank you for having us. First of all, I am interested in just telling you very briefly about myself. One of the things that I've done a lot lately in working for the firm is doing large urban school districts. I've just recently completed both Austin and Fort Worth, worked with Milwaukee and Baltimore County schools, and I'm excited to have the opportunity to speak with you today. So thank you so much.
All right. I know you're going to be talking to several other firms, and there are some differences between the search firms, so we thought we would just highlight some of the differences, and we all have our own different style and the way we do things. On the front of the folder that I passed out, it says Finding Leaders for America's Schools, and that's all we do. We don't have any other business. This is all we do, is help school districts around the country to find top leaders, not only superintendents but other positions. So I will tell you that we're located in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. That's right in the middle of the country. I always have a little picture up there about Cedar Rapids because sometimes people think Iowa, all we have is the field of dreams and corn and that sort of thing. So I always have a picture up there that we do actually have a city there. I will tell you that our experience is one of our key things that we do. We've been in the business longer than any other search firm, in the country. We got started in 1975. Was the first search that I actually participated in. The firm has, I am the sole owner of the company. There are other firms, other national firms have been bought out, or they by other companies or selling other services. But the difference with us is that every job that you've seen in my proposal, we've actually done those jobs. It's not a customer list of jobs that maybe someone else has done. So our firm has actually done those jobs themselves. We have extensive experience in working in sunshine states, Florida, Michigan. We've done jobs in your particular state, having done Knox County and Sumner County and Oak Ridge and a number of other schools in Tennessee. We've also worked with the Council of Great City Schools. We've probably done more of those searches recently than any other firm in the country. And Mary had mentioned, too, that we just finished up, and our firm's finishing up Albuquerque right now. So I will tell you that the people that are going to be working on this search will be two of the individuals right here. One of the good things about being president of the firm, you can kind of choose after nearly 40 years where you want to work. And the places where I like to work at is the challenging school districts, the large school districts, and high performing, because both of those are on the opposite ends of the spectrum. And I personally enjoy doing those. We have also done a lot of state commissioners' jobs around the country. I just finished up last year, West Virginia. I did Rhode Island, Ohio. I've done Wyoming, Mississippi, and some other places. And I think that speaks well, of our firm. Our firm has never been fired or dismissed during the 40 years. We have a very successful, track record, and we're very proud of that. Recruiting is our one of the things that I think we do extremely well. Our associates, I want to talk quickly about them. I've got to give them their kudos because they've been with me a long time. We have the largest recruiting network in the country. I have over 160 associates. Actually, it's over 170 now associates, and they've been with me a long time, and they work in teams. And that really helps produce success for us. And we're going to bring a good team here.
One of the things that also does is it enables us to reach out personally to potential candidates. Many times you'll just get a cold flyer mailed to you. You have no idea who the firm is or anything about it, but we pick up the phone and we call people personally, these 160 associates, and we reach out to them once we determine what the matches are for your needs and your district's interest in their next leader.
Diversity is something that this firm has been a leader. Over 40% of our firm are women and minorities, and they often bring a different perspective to the table. And I can tell you that we have recruited and placed more women and minorities than any firm in the country, and we're very happy regarding that particular statistic. Let's talk a little bit about database and candidate care, something we can do. Our database is fresh every year. We don't have a data of clients that we owe any favors or we take any dollars or any of that sort of thing. What we try to do is go out and recruit good folks for the jobs that we have. We're not a placement service. And we're trying to find good people for the jobs that we do have. So we're not purchasing any database. We build our database every year of people that might have good jobs. They're happy where they're at, but we're looking for they may be looking for a challenge or something like that. Then we can recruit them. So it's an ongoing thing with us with candidates. And we get a lot of candidates for the jobs we have because candidates around the country, and I'm talking not only traditional candidates, but non-traditional and hybrid candidates, and we'll speak to that in a few minutes. You have to build trust with candidates. And the pools that we have, even in the Sunshine States, are anywhere from 50 to 60 to 70 completed files. Now, those aren't interests, those are completed files because they trust us in our process. And we have placed, as I said, many traditional, non-traditional, and hybrid candidates.
I would ask you to take a look at sometime, make a note in the proposal. If you look on page 10, we describe the non-traditional candidate, and I think it's a nice synopsis of our beliefs about that and our experience level with regard to both non-traditional, hybrid, and traditional candidates. So that's on page 10.
And I could just give you an example of a couple of non-traditional or hybrid candidates in Council Great City Schools in Guilford County. Mo Green, we worked that search and placed him there. Robert Runcie down at Broward County. We've done Oakland, California, where there was a non-traditional candidate placement. In Colorado Springs, Neil Gleditch is the superintendent there, so Nick Gleditch. So we have done a lot of those around the country, and that just shows you our outreach of recruiting candidates. The process is we're a very detail-oriented firm. I can tell you, you'll figure that out if you do hire us, that we go to the extra mile because we don't want anything slipping through the cracks. We don't want any surprises. And our process is very flexible. And this is your search. This isn't our search. And nearly 40 years, we've never hired a superintendent or a director. That's your job. Our job is to recruit good people that are going to meet the skill levels that you expect from the next director. So that's now I want to talk to you about our staff. We have a very responsive staff, and that's critical in the search process, is having a staff that can deal with candidates, can deal with our connection with the board to be able to get to you and meet your demands. And when I put this together, I put a full-time staff, and my staff changed this slide and put a highly qualified staff. And it's a little bit of a joke in the office, but it truly is that they are highly qualified, and they do a great job.
I think that's one of the largest compliments that we get when we complete searches is the fact that the board really felt very strongly that we were able to tailor the search to their needs. Be that timelines, be that the process of engagement, externally, the communication factor, all the different things that are important to you when you're interested in your board having transparency and seeking an outstanding candidate in the final analysis.
And I want to talk about building a profile. One of the reasons that school districts around the country hire our firm is some of the things that we do extremely well. One is our experience. Secondly is building a profile and working with stakeholders and being good ambassadors for the board. And aggressive recruiting candidates and then investigating those candidates and making sure they are who they say they are. And building a profile, this is something that we do extremely well. Again, I know that you folks have been put together a job description, you're looking at various characteristics, but often we will always interview every board member, and that's critical to us because that's the first question we get. Tell me about the board. I've read all about the board, and I've read about the issues, but tell me about them as individuals. And that's critical. The other thing as far as working with stakeholders, if you want us to do that, we're very good at that. We will send in a team. We will be there. We have a lot of bilingual people that's on our staff, and we will send a very diverse team that will be part of the search process. And we'll meet with small groups. We meet with large groups. We've done open forums. We've done morning forums. And the reason why I like to do morning forums, because in today's world, not everybody can meet at night. So we have to make sure that we go out in the community, make ourselves accessible, and spend a lot of time.
Student forums, we like to include high school students in the mix because they definitely know their district and they have opinions about leadership, and it's valued.
Yeah, and that's part of the transparency, part of the process that we do very well is getting out in the community and spending time with various stakeholders and leaders of the community. And we do have a survey, research-based survey of 33 characteristics. It used to be 27, now it's 33 because the job has changed, and particularly in large school districts. And so we utilize that survey. We have it in many, many different languages. And then we'll compile all that information and we'll put together not only on the stakeholders groups, but the surveys themselves, put it all together, report it to the board, and that's going to be our guiding light to try to recruit candidates. Because someone can be a great superintendent, even in a large district, but are they going to work well here? And that's what we're looking for, a good marriage here.
We'll put that survey link, work with your tech people, get it up on your homepage, and in a district this size, you'll have several hundred people who are unable to attend the stakeholder meetings, but will still have the opportunity to be engaged in the process through completing the survey online. And again, it's in multiple languages.
And, again, we can take bits and pieces of this, or once in a while, we'll have a board that'll say, we put together, the profile, and let's go with that. So that's the flexibility we have within our process. Not every search is done the same way, and not every community and every school district is the same.
I think it's very gratifying to the board, though, to learn, because there's an opportunity for stakeholders to make comments, and you learn as a board what your interests are of your stakeholders in their next leader, and then all that is compiled and tallied, and that's what becomes the leading characteristics to fit the profile.
Real quickly, I want to talk about the recruiting. I don't want to go too fast, but this is one of what I call the guts of the survey, of the search process after you put together the survey and a profile, is going out and recruiting candidates to the profile. And obviously, we're going to advertise to a number of the national venues, and we use not only our website. Our website gets, at this time of year, thousands and thousands of hits, and not only from traditional candidates, but for non-traditional candidates, because they know we have recruited a lot of non-traditional, candidates. And we'll use a lot of the social media, obviously Facebook and Twitter, and when we're out there advertising, we're using LinkedIn and a bunch of things. But we do aggressively recruit candidates. Your best candidates are not reading the one ads. They're doing a good job in their current job, no matter what type of job that might be, so they need to be recruited and personally reached out to, and that's something we'll be able to do. That's why we have the largest network out there, and our network is in the business of education and outside into the business world and in between. So we will be recruiting traditional, non-traditional, and hybrid candidates if that's your desire. We do have an excellent track record, as I mentioned, some of those organizations. I will tell you that we have a great relationship with ALIS. That is the Latino superintendents and administrators. There's several of our associates, Stan Paz and Ricardo Medina. They were some of the founders of that organization. They still work with that organization today. NAPSI, we have Mike Rush and Al Johnson, who are very much wired into that organization. And in fact, they both have just recently came back from some of those meetings in their organizations. So we have an excellent track record of presenting diverse candidates. We're going to present, the very top candidates that we've recruited. Obviously, those candidates will complete the application process. We'll present those top candidates to the board, and you'll determine. We have a consensus building instrument to bring the board together on candidates. I will tell you, in the Sunshine States that I've worked at, candidates appreciate understanding the Sunshine Law, and boards really gravitate to our matrix scoring system. And it works well to bring consensus to boards on candidates, because that's one of the things that candidates are going to look at, is being able to work with a board that they can move the agenda. So we will completely investigate candidates. There's no surprises. Our candidates will be who we say they are. And all the years that I've been doing this, we haven't had any surprises, and you're not going to be the first one that we're going to have surprises. They will be who we say they are. And then finalizing the search process, we have a 2-year guarantee, and so we stay in constant correspondence with candidates and our boards, and working with them. And we do have a survey that every year is sent out on building a relationship between the candidate as well as the board, and we report that result every year. It talks about board meetings, board's roles and responsibility, team building. This document, we have every board member fill it out. We have all the superintendent, and if everybody's on the same page, fine. If you're not on the same page, then let's talk about it. And that's something that we provide free at no cost every year, as long as the person is in place. And I can tell you, our 2-year guarantee, there's only been a couple times in 40 years I've ever had to come back. And what that means, we would do the search over for expenses only. And I certainly, one of the reasons why we haven't had to go back and redo a search, and often it's been maybe the board and the superintendent really did get along, but maybe the person got another promotion. And
I think your new director would find this piece really helpful, because it is very unifying, and it's also very proactive. It's not waiting to see if there are things that the board and the director are on different pages about. It's analyzing what they are now and then working to together to try to bring unity, if you will.
And we were told to keep our presentation in between 15 and 20 minutes, and we're at 18 minutes, so I think we're right in the middle there.
Thank you very much. Any things to clarify from the presentation, guys? Good? All right, thank you so much for your
Thank
time.
you.
Well, thank you for having us.
And finally, we are going to have Hazard, Young, and Tia. They were to go first, but their flight was delayed, canceled, or rescheduled, but they did make it. So they'll be next. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You can start whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, and my apologies for being a little late. American Airlines found a slash on a tire and they wouldn't let the airplane take off, but we finally did make it. I would like to start by introducing Diana McCauley, my associate, who will be co-leading the search with me if you should choose Hazard Young & Associates to assist you with the search. This is a very brief period. Diana and I were going to co-present, but we thought that maybe for efficiency's sake, we will just quickly go through the slides and give you an opportunity to ask any questions you might have, which we obviously will both answer. But maybe, Diana, why don't you just take a minute and introduce yourself?
Okay, good afternoon again. I did walk around and meet everyone. It's a pleasure being here. As Bill said, and I won't monopolize the time, I am Diana McCauley. I've been with Hazard Young & Associates since 1998 and have participated in searches in extremely large districts and some even single school districts. It's a pleasure to be here and hopefully look forward to working with each of you.
As you'll see in the next slide, Diana is just got to find out how this one works. There it goes. Diana will be working with me on the search. I'm a former school superintendent. I had the good pleasure of working with two of you 6 years ago when Dr. Register was selected as Director of Schools for the Nashville Metropolitan School District. I was the lead consultant on that search, and I'm very happy to be back. And I'm also very happy to browse through some of the performance records and show that there has been a upward trend in your district during that period with a lot of work to be done yet. And so, as I said, I've been a school superintendent for 24 years, but more importantly to what we're doing here, I have been in the search work for the past 27 plus years working with school districts across the country, and we'll talk about that a little later. Diana is a former school board president and former college professor, in addition to being a public school teacher in Philadelphia, and also was assistant president at Illinois State University for diversity and affirmative action. As I said, we've had over 28 years of service to the nation's schools. We've assisted over 1,000 school districts in their search for school executives, mostly school superintendents. And this has been done with a network of over 150 associates in 27 states across the country. We do this work because we like to do it. We started the firm back in 1987 because nobody was in the firm that was dedicated to aggressive quality searches. At that time, almost everybody put an ad in the paper and waited for people to come. Bill Hazard, who was a college professor at Northwestern University at that time, was doing several searches. I was a superintendent, as were two other colleagues. We went to lunch with Bill and shared with him that he was not finding the right people for the right schools because the best superintendent in the world could be the wrong superintendent for a school district, and that every school district has its own DNA, and what you need to do is go find somebody that has the characteristics that are needed in a school district at a specific time and for the foreseeable future. And back then, we decided to start a firm. It was around that lunch table that would be aggressive in recruitment, that would do quality work, and that would be service-oriented. And we very candidly started it as a hobby, as some of you know, and it became the largest search firm in the country in this type of business. And we're very pleased of the people we've served. As you'll see a little later, we've served over just about half of the 100 largest school districts in the country and over half of the schools in the Council for Large District Schools. The typical search process has 4 steps. The planning process, and that's one that we are heavily engaged with you. If you hire us, we are not going to do your search. It is your search. Our job is to help you do it as well as possible. And the search has several very important components, and during that planning stage, we'll be talking about them. But one of the most important components is identifying the criteria or characteristics you need in Nashville, metropolitan Nashville, to see in your next superintendent. And so we will do that in the planning phase, along with doing extensive community outreach and engagement, and be happy to answer questions about that. The second phase focuses on us, and that's really what you pay us most of the money for. Aggressive recruitment for people who meet your criteria. We don't have a stable of candidates that we go to. We start every search from scratch, and we build that database on your criteria, and those are the types of people we go out and recruit, and we'll talk about that in a few seconds. The selection phase, this is where it shifts primarily to you, and we are there to facilitate and assist, but it is your responsibility to select your next director of schools or superintendent. If I intermingle them, I'm sure you're aware that in the other states, it's all superintendent. You're a little different with your director of schools. And then the appointment phase, again, that's your primary responsibility, but we're there with you every step of the way until you hire your superintendent and have him or her on deck. We have 4 guarantees. We go on a fixed fee basis. We will be with you from day one until you hire your superintendent at no additional cost. A lot of other people have fees that are slightly lower than ours or considerably lower than ours, but they add a cost for every single thing they do during the search. We want it very clear that there is no additional cost to you for all the services provided, except for the ones that are listed in the proposal. Your expenses, candidate expenses, our travel expenses, advertisements, and criminal background checks if you want them to be done by an independent outside third party. Secondly, if the superintendent leaves within a year from starting because it was a misfit or for any reason whatsoever, we even had a case, unfortunately, that superintendent became ill and could no longer work. We will redo the search at no cost. We will extend that into 2 years if your board is intact, the board that hired the individual. And so it's really a 2-year, I think most of you go through 16 or 2017, it's really a 2-year guarantee. The third is that we do not go and poach candidates we've placed in prior years. In fact, in our 27-year history, I think there are only 4 times that we have had a candidate go from one district to another, and in all those cases, it was in consultation with the current board. It was for family reasons, health reasons, or things of that nature. And then fourth, we will match any price of any competitor. If you feel that we've got the best product and you would want to work with us, we will match the price for comparable services. And that's something that I just do want to clarify, because obviously there are some people that do a lot less than we will, but we will analyze what they are doing, share with you where we're doing more, et cetera, but we will match the price of any other firm that you might be considering if you prefer us. And I did talk to you about the cost, beginning to end, and the cost that you would assume in addition. What is the value added in our searches? First of all, we have research-based data. Ever since we merged with the Echo Group, which is primarily a research and analytics firm, we've developed a survey that is research-based, that can go online, that all your constituents can complete. We have it in your packet. It lists the 25 characteristics of highly successful superintendents, and people are given the opportunity through that survey to identify the 8 of those characteristics that they feel are most apropos to Metro Nashville School District. Meaningful stakeholder engagement. We engage them, we report back to them during the meetings in which we are meeting with them. We prepare a written report for you where they can see that they were heard and listened to, and we use the data with you to identify the criteria that this district should be looking for. In doing that, we identify the district's successes, but more importantly, your needs. And not just your needs for today, but we will ask everybody we meet with, what are the challenges, the issues, the concerns that Nashville is going to face in the next 4, 5, 10 years, because we recruit for the long range. We have access to very difficult, hard to obtain confidential data, because we know well over 2,000 to 3,000 people across the country that never have us more than 6 degrees separated from somebody that can tell us personally about the people that we're talking about. We have full-time professional staff. We provide very personal service. If you select us, you're welcome to use our 360-degree research-based superintendent evaluation system, and we do provide a full continuum of leadership services. Why HYA? We talked about our people being the largest search firm in the country, having done more search firms, more successful searches than any other firm in the country. Our process, which is replicated, and the greatest pride we have is that most of the firms sort of follow our process. We've been in business longer than any of the other firms in the search business. One of the firms was in business longer than us in negotiations, but in the search business, and our commitment. But most importantly, and I want to call to your attention, the bottom, our history of success. 80% of all superintendents hired since 2000 are still in the positions for which they were hired, or have retired from those positions. 10% of them have stayed between 4 and 8 years in the position. But I did an analysis, and I left it in my bag, but I'll try. I took we've helped over 15 school districts, over 100,000 kids. In those 15 school districts that we helped, 9 of the superintendents are still in those positions or have retired from those positions. 2 left to go into the private sector. 3 left to take other positions, one being Dr. Terry Greer, who left San Diego to go to Houston, Texas. So those are the districts of over 100,000 students that I personally worked in. I've also worked in about 30 to 40 school districts in the 50 to 100,000. 80% of those searches, the superintendents have stayed until retirement or are still in their jobs. Nobody anywhere can match that record. And I want to go back to say what I talked about earlier, the aggressive recruitment. We go out and aggressively recruit for Nashville. We don't go out to recruit for a superintendent. We recruit for the specific district, and we want to match the DNA of the individual to the district that we are working for, to our clients. That's a very important thing. The other thing, and then I'm going to stop, because the next slide is the last slide. I went back and to see about 80 to 90% of all of the candidates that were hired for those roughly 50 large city school districts were recruited for the position. They did not apply for the position. And right now, we just completed New Orleans, which is a school district much smaller than yours if you look at Orleans Parish School District, but when you combine the Recovery District and Orleans Parish, it's about the same size of yours. The person they hired never was on our slate before. Boston now has 5 finalists. None of the 5 have ever been on the slates before, even though we've done 1,000 searches. I want to go back to the aggressive recruitment for the district in which we're working. And with that, I'll stop and say I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody might have, unless my time is up.
It is just about, is there anything that needs clarification from anyone? Good? Okay, well, I'd like to thank both of you for being here, and again, apologies for your travel troubles.
No, thank you very much. It's our pleasure, and we look forward to having the opportunity to work with all of you. Thank you.
All right. Other questions about other things?
Could you just clarify the process, kind of how the ultimate selection works? I mean, are we going to cast ballots or?
Yeah,
have a
so
conversation?
after this, and we will convene what I refer to as our first official director search committee meeting. Discuss the 3 firms that have presented to us. And we may get to the point where we say, these 3 firms are just not going to cut it, and we need to keep looking. I keep my fingers, toes, and everything else I have that doesn't hurt crossed, that we can move forward from this point, but it's not a guarantee, and it's not a must that we do so. But to come back together, we'll reconvene, discuss openly what we think, what our thoughts are from the presentations we've had, the other discussions that we have with the firms, and then, yeah, we'll cast a vote. And then initiate the engagement, and then obviously first step being to map out what that timeline is like. I think one of the things that we have talked, I mentioned before, that probably more key than any other component of this search is going to be the community and stakeholder engagement. So that's another thing I think we need to spend some time talking through what our expectations are at that same discussion, and ensuring that we're engaging a firm that's capable of doing that. You know, we've heard some online, we've heard some community meetings, we've heard some all online and not mentioned community meetings, so I think we need to be very clear about what we're looking for and what we expect that to look like. That's that feedback that we've talked about in other venues that we're trying to gather and collect to ensure that we have a director of schools that understands what the needs of the community are. I still maintain that our community is pretty unique, and in a lot of good ways, but ensuring that we're engaging a firm that wants to do that legwork and do that work, to have those engagements in this community that get that stakeholder feedback.
So what date are we aiming for to come back together?
I'd like to do it before the board meeting.
Before Tuesday?
No, not this Tuesday. Before the 24th board meeting.
Oh, okay.
So that we can announce that, and we'll be talking then what's the go-forward plan is from there. Anything else? Then we got a bit of a break before, what do you think? Thank you very much.
Thank you.